Hey everybody, it's Simcoe Spring Service, and today I'm going to be showing you how we make our 3-inch lift block kits for our utility trailers and camper trailers and fifth wheel trailers, stuff like that. So this particular block is going to be designed for a 1 3/4 inch wide leaf spring, and it's going to be 3 inches tall. Now, I had these blanks cut out for me at a local fabrication shop, and what I'm going to be doing is turning this into an actual usable product. So the end goal for me is to drill a hole in this end, tap a hole in this end so I can put a socket head screw into the end and create a little nub that sticks out, slides into the axle. I need a hole at the top to be able to receive the center bolt head, and then I have to put a reinforcement plate inside of it to be able to give it the strength and durability it needs to be able to handle however many thousands of pounds are sitting on these lift blocks. So there's a couple different processes we're going to show today. I'm actually going to write a program on my CNC machine to be able to drill the holes and thread them. The next stage is we're going to weld a brace inside of here, and we're going to test to see whether or not this block is going to be durable enough to be able to handle the lifetime of salt rust and other issues that come along with having a vehicle that's on the road. So I'm not going to get too long-winded. Let's get fabricating and see what kind of program I can run. So setting up a CNC machine is quite a complicated process as to what I've been learning for the last couple of months. I'm going to fire it up, and I'm going to just give you some really basic setups and procedures. So essentially the first process I need to do is I need to reset my machine every time I use it. So what I just did now is I referenced it. So it'll bring the head up to the Z-axis to the top, and I'll reference it to a limiter switch. And do the same thing with the table. I'll bring it forward and bring it over, and it'll tell what its limits are. What that does is it sets basically a home point, and then I do all my work offsets from there. So work offset is what I'm going to determine where the piece of steel is that I'm working on, and I'm actually going to be putting one block in. I'm going to write my program off of it, make sure everything functions and works properly, and then I'll be able to use all 3 vices to be able to manufacture 3 at a time. So I've already got a little bit of practice on this stuff, so hopefully it goes good today. I will have a couple complications, but hopefully it doesn't slow me down too much. So a couple of complications that I'm helping fix today is these are my little parallels, and they sit inside of here. And what that does is it keeps my workpiece elevated about 1/4 inch off of the bottom of my vise. So when I run my tap through and it goes out the bottom, it has to go out 200,000ths of an inch past the bottom of the block that I'm manufacturing. And when it goes through, it'll hit the bottom of my vise. So I don't want to have something bottom out. So I put a 1/4 inch shim to elevate my workpiece. But the problem is they keep falling over. If I got to load 170 or 180 blocks in there, it's going to keep falling over. So what I do is I get a little zip tie here, and I insert it into the parallels. So I insert it into the parallels like this, and that just kind of holds them in place so that they don't fall out when I'm working. So it's kind of a cool little trick. So it's nice and low too. It gets thinner than the plate, so then it shouldn't interfere with my block when I set them on top. Okay, so the number one issue that I'm going to have is clearance. So from the clearance here to the bottom of my drill bits. Okay, so when the tool changer comes across, it's not going to collide with the top of my block, because that was one issue that I'm worried about. So what I might end up having to do too is cut some of these shanks down on the drill bits so I can raise them up and elevate them a little bit. So it'd probably be wise for me to cut maybe 1/2 inch or maybe even 1 inch off of that to be able to lift them up. it's kind of terrifying. Don't want any collisions, don't want anything to break. Oh yeah, that clearance is only maybe, it's not even 1/4 of an inch. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to end up modifying some of my drill bits so I don't have a crash, because that's kind of tolerance is terrifying me right now. So essentially I need to do a whole bunch of prep work. So I'm gonna prep all my drill bits, I'm gonna get them to the right length, I'm gonna prep all of my taps and everything like that. Some of these tools are quite long, you see. Yeah, so it looks like it'll work. Just gotta do some preparation work. So I'll bring you guys back when I got everything prepped and ready for CNCing and program writing. Okay, so these are the 3 drill bits I'm going to be using. So 5/16 drill bit, 5/8 drill bit, and a 3/8 coarse thread tap. So essentially they're going to go in through this order. So essentially I'm just going to take my block, I'm going to come across, drill down through. It's going to pierce through the bottom, retract. So I'm going to switch out to this drill bit here, come down, drill there, come back out. And then this one will come through and then tap through the bottom. So that's my cycle. So that should be pretty cool, and I should be able to get that programmed up pretty quickly. So let's get these bad boys loaded up here. Okay, so I'm just sticking a random drill bit in here. So now that I found a kind of a neutral position, this is an automatic tool height setter. So what I'm going to do is set it up so that I can test the lengths of all these tools. So one of the most important things that you need to do is make sure that your machine knows how long it is from here to the end of your tool so it can drill to the right depths. So I was just using that as a guide so I could line that up. Now that it's lined up, I can actually just hit this button here and it'll touch off the entire tray. So it'll rotate to each of the tools that I have in there and measure the heights of them so that I can have everything set and programmed. Okay, I screwed up. There you go, accidentally forgot to hit Z axis only, because that's why I went to the home point at the front. Whoops. So this takes quite a bit of time. I mean, this is real-time speed, but the reason why is because it doesn't want to just drive down into your sensor there and wreck it. So now it's going to do a tool change. I knew the compressor was going to turn on and ruin my nice little part of the video. But yeah, super handy tool. Electronic tool setter from Tormac. It's definitely worth every penny, because I just did all my tool offsets and I did them in like less than a minute. So put this away and go from there. So this is my Tormac probe, the PN50355. So you just set it into the spindle here. And then this reads into the computer. So what this probe will do is it'll measure the outside dimensions of my block here. This is going to be hard to see because it's going to be such a fine little detail. So what's going to happen is this probe is going to go over, touch off, come back, and it'll measure the dimensions of the block and set my home point there. That's it. So I'll set that dimension. This is going to be a little harder to measure, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the back of this, and what that'll do is it'll give me the very, very far corner. And now I'm going to set my height. There you go. So now I know that this exact corner is my work offset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to drill a hole 2 inches over and 7/8 of an inch down. But yeah, so essentially I'm just going to drill a hole right there, and I'm going to program it so it drills a hole with this one first, comes in with the big boy, drills it out, and then I'm going to come in with the tap and tap out the bottom. So this is going to take me a couple minutes to program, and then we'll run a cycle and see how it works. Okay, so everything's programmed. It should tool change, grab that drill bit, come through, drill all the way through, come back, tool change, 5/8, go half, like just through the top half, tool change, go to the tap. The problem is it'll start here and it'll tap the whole way down, and it's going to be pretty slow. So what I might do is just run a few cycles and then see if I can speed up some of the language, and I'd have to change and edit the G code because the conversation only lets me do so much. So that's the plan until it changes. We'll get to see how good of a programmer I am, see if it actually works or not. Not sure if I like that feed rate. The holes, I think all the way through. It looks through. All right, let's drill the next hole. Okay, so that one did actually pierce through, so we're good to go. Now we're going to tap it. Sounded kind of terrible. Yep, I see some problems. Yeah, we crashed here at the bottom. You can see the tap speared into the side and then it slid over. So that's gonna damage my tap. There's so much wiggle on these taps. As it's spinning around, it was kind of like flopping and stuff like that, so I'm not sure if I would like that to continue on. I mean, it tapped all right. It looks good. I just don't want to damage and be driving my tap into stuff with that much of a stick out. So I need to reprogram this already. Okay, so we're gonna attempt something else. So I think what was happening is that as the first drill bit was going down and it was coming in, it was slowly starting to bend it around until it went out the hole at the bottom. So I think the issue I have is that with that much stick out and it going through a pilot hole, and if the pilot hole's off by 0.02 of an inch, by the time it gets down to the bottom, that multiplies by like 10, 15 times, and I'm at like 10 or 15 thou at the bottom, and it's just bending the drill bit. So nothing here is probably like absolutely 100% square. So even just being a couple thou out is just causing the drill bit to rub on the one side and twist and bend it over. So then when the tap comes in, it comes in and it just drives into the bottom plate until it jumps into the hole. And That's what caused it to cause that chipping motion. So I'm going to come in, drill the first hole, come out, tool change, drill the 5/8 hole, tool change back to the first drill bit, drill all the way down through, and then switch to the tap. We'll see if that works. Absolutely flawless. There we go. So now I can thread my little nub in there, my socket head screw, and then when I weld it in, I'll just run a weld across there, so it'll be threaded and welded. Nice and strong. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my vices so I can do all three. I'm going to run the program a bunch of times, get some test pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to weld the gusset inside of them, get the nub in there, which I have on order right now, so it'll probably be a day or two before I can finish this video. So I think that's it. That's all I'm going to do for today. So we're back in the shop now. We moved all our blocks up here. We went and die grinded the burrs from the inside of the block, just so everything's clean so we can weld it. So basically, having this tap now, I can actually use these socket head cap screws and just tighten them in like that. So I'm a jig person. I love jigs, so we made up a nice little jig here so we can tighten them up, because holding on to these things with the air gun is going to be a little bit painful after you do like 150 to 200 in a row. So I made up a little jig here to hold them for us. We got a nice little jig here. It's super simple, just something I can clamp in my vise. Can load them up, tighten them. So there you go, it sticks out a little bit at the bottom, and that's not a problem. We'll deal with that in a second. And one of the reasons why this isn't really a problem is because we had these plasma cut out, so that will accommodate for that little stick out. Seems to work out really well. So if you're ever thinking about doing some sort of assembly process, make up jigs. It's a lifesaver. So speaking of jigs, here's our next jig that we had made up. It's just a bunch of deep nuts that we use for our U-bolts, and we welded them to a plate. So now that I have it clamped, it's not going to move anywhere when I tack it. So now I can just tack it, and then I'll pull it out, and then I can actually do my full weld. There we go. And now I can just complete all my welds on the inside. So I'm actually going to finish welding this one up. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a compression test on this thing, because it's for a 7,000 pound axle. So the blocks need to be rated for 3,500 pounds each, times 10, because you want it about 10 times stronger than what you actually need it for. So about 35,000 pounds or 17.5 tons. So what I'll do is I'll finish welding it up, and then we'll do a compression test on it and see where the failure rate is. So I did leave a little gap in there. I just ran the weld right over top of the nub. It was more for welding the nub in than filling up the hole. Although when I go to the final product, I might put a little bit more weld in there. But this is just a test block. So we'll test it out and see if there's any kind of failure points. So we'll give her a squish, see what happens. So we'll do some basic math here for you. So on our pressure gauge here, 20 tons is kind of roughly what we're looking for. And you're looking at 4,472 psi or 308 bar. So 4,400, so just a little over 4,000 right there. So we're just looking for the needle to move about that much. Nothing crazy. I don't know if this gauge is off a little bit, so we'll probably bump her up to about 5,000 just to kind of round it out. And then we're going to actually ramp it right up to see what the failure rate is. I want this thing to fail to know where the maximum is. Yeah, I just went right up to 6,000 psi. I didn't even flinch. I have a feeling this thing won't fail until I hit 40 ton. So right now we're at 6,000, which is around 27 tons worth of strength. So not even a flinch. Let's see if we can get the flinch. I'm starting to flinch. That's 8,000. That's about as high as I'm going on this machine. So you're looking at 35 tons of pressure. Let's get you right in down here. See the deflection on it. And you see a tiny little bit of deflection right in the middle here. You see it starting to come down a little bit. We'll back it off. You should be able to see it. Okay, there's almost nothing. I mean, all it did was just dent it in the middle here where the hole is. And it barely even moved. I bet you if I would have welded right to the hole, it probably wouldn't even moved at all. So yeah, that's a nice little strong block. 37.5 tons.
They're bringing over the big boy. Do it for real.
Do it for real. All right, let's do it for real. I'm keeping that in.
Let's do it.
So I have a spacer here with a 5/8 hole in it. Set the block on there. Now this plate does have a little bit of a bow to it, so it's probably gonna kind of warp and skew a little bit, but I want to see where the failure point is on this thing, because I don't know if I need to fix anything if it doesn't fail. So let's send her and see what happens. All right. So basically it failed on the ends. Tore a couple welds here and there. But that's what happens when you put 100 tons on it. I mean, that's more than what I would classify as reasonable. But yeah, so basically the weakest point is the side welds here, which is what I expected. The other option, it would be to weld it 100% all the way around. So, but my first weld was worse and it was colder. The second, this is the first weld and it was colder. And you can see how it tore apart on the sides here. And this one I turned my machine up more and it was much stronger. So we're gonna weld it as hot as we can get it. So yeah, we'll just turn our machine up, put a decent weld in there, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's why I like seeing where it fails, because you can tell which welds are good and which ones are not quite as good. So perfection, love it. And cut. Oh,
Go all the way.
no, I want it like that. I like to see the failures. So I guess the issue I have with that 100-ton press is I actually don't know how many tons it took to compress it like this. I would probably say that it was hitting, I don't know, 70% load, 80% load. So you're talking about 70 to 80 tons worth of pressure it took to crush this. So I would classify that as an absolute success, because when you're pushing at like 160,000 pounds to break something, yeah, you can drop your trailer off a cliff and your blocks will be fine. Your trailer might not be. So these are our new 3-inch lift blocks that we're, not this one. We'll make some good ones. But these are our new 3-inch lift blocks that we're gonna be selling on our website for our camper trailers. So if your truck is sitting a little too high for your camper trailer, then you can put a lift block in your camper trailer and level it out. Make it a little easier to tow. Whenever you're towing your trailer, you should always have it nice and flat and level and even compared to the truck that's towing it. So, hope that helps. Go check it out online. I'll have all the links down below for our 1-inch, our 2-inch, and our 3-inch lift blocks. You can buy them right now at simcoespring.com and they're already available for purchase. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time. Take care.